ITC's numbers flashing currently in front of you on your screens. The PAT has come in at 1928 crore rupees. We were estimating 1904. So that is marginally higher than what the ET Now poll was indicating. Still awaiting the top line number because we were expecting an uptick of nearly about 16% odd. Well, 8,050 crore rupees is what we are expecting ITC to deliver in terms of the top line. But we just have the bottom line numbers, the PAT figure 1928. But the weakness in any case seems to have priced in something ahead of the earnings, Ajay.
Aisha, I would say that, the market had a whiff of a weak number, and that's why you saw the stock taking a toll ahead of the number. If you look at the reaction right now, it's a bit of covering as well as a fresh buying seen in ITC. At least the data is looking at that because of a weak number, but the company did not oblige with a weak number. It's a healthy number, but the two numbers are still awaited, the EBIT of cigarette as well as the overall volume growth in the cigarette segment.
The cigarette revenues, they stand at 3629 crore rupees. Let me just dig out the poll in terms of what we were actually expecting, because we were expecting the volume growth to for the cigarette business to actually improve this time around.
All right. There has been a combination of volume growth as well as pricing because of taking the VAT impact from the budget. The company went ahead and hiked prices in several states. So that is why to decipher the numbers this time round will be interesting. Okay, that's a 33.1% EBITDA margin they reported. That's a clear increase of about 1% as far as margins are concerned. That will bode well because that's a big institution and almost a percent now. So it's, the market is taking that number in the positive light right now.
But Ajay, that is a little lower than actually what we were expecting, because the third quarter of FY13, the cigarette EBIT margin clocked in at about 1.5%. The ET Now poll was actually pricing in a bit of a volume uptick to come in this time around, about 1.5% to 2%. So if indeed the uptick has only been 1%, so I would say that is a tad lower. But I think we should bring in our research analyst Navneet to highlight a little bit more in terms of how these numbers stack up and what the expectation in the street actually was, because the cigarette volume growth has been improving for the last 2 quarters, and this time around we were expecting an uptick of about 1.5% to about 2%. So net, you'd have to say it has been an inline set of numbers so far.
That's correct. And also take into account the kind of run-up the stock has been seeing ever since the Unilever and Hindustan Unilever deal has been announced. So a lot of positiveness already built in. Because if you look in isolation, these numbers look healthy, top line, bottom line, and 1% clear increase in margins. If you compared the delivered numbers with the expectations, then you would look at slightly soft numbers. So perhaps that's the confusion in the mind of traders as well, and that's why we are looking at quite a volatile trade happening right now. Let's wait for the volume number to come in, because I don't think the cigarette EBIT number has also come. The margin number which we have spoken about, 33.1, is the overall margin which takes into account non-cigarette earnings as well.
Just want to talk a little bit more about the FMCG business, which is the non-cigarette business. While of course the key component and the key revenue driver for ITC has been the cigarette business, and yet again we are expecting an uptick over there. The FMCG segment losses are actually going to decline this time around. In fact, some analysts also go on to expect that the segment is going to break even this time. So let's see what the FMCG business or segment as well has done for ITC. Just awaiting more details, while on the top and the bottom line ITC has somewhat exceeded street expectations, or rather an inline set of numbers, I should say. The Q4 EBITDA margin, the overall margin, has come in at 33.1 versus a comparable of 32.5.